I wish to point out, Mr. Chairman, that one allegation regarding the use of the government-issued credit card for personal purpose was not established by us. We saw no evidence to support that allegation.
All right, family. Today's video is a serious one. And if you care about accountability, public funds and governance, stay right here. We are looking at a special audit into the Houses of Parliament, triggered by a whistleblower. And while some major allegations were not proven, what was revealed raises big red flags. Because here is the thing. When an audit says no personal use was proven, but also highlights weak controls, missing documentation, verbal permission, and a $29 million error, we need to slow down and really unpack what's going on. Let's get into it.
A special audit of the Houses of Parliament was undertaken in response to matters brought to my attention by a whistleblower regarding the administration and management of certain operational activities. In accordance with our standard operation procedures, a preliminary review of the reported allegations was undertaken. This review determined that sufficient grounds existed to commission a special audit, of which the primary objective was to assess whether the procurement and contract management practices, government fleet vehicle management, and the use of an official credit card was conducted in keeping with applicable laws, regulations, and guidelines. The audit was designed to evaluate compliance and to identify any deviations from established standards in these areas. The report highlights breaches of established rules and controls, weaknesses in relation to procurement planning and execution, fleet management, and credit card administration. However, I wish to point out, Mr. Chairman, that one allegation regarding the use of the government-issued credit card for personal purpose was not established by us. We saw no evidence to support that allegation. At the same time, the report that you should have with you reflects management's responses and action taken by management before the completion of our report. Since then, I have received, in fact, yesterday, I received a response from the Houses of Parliament, which was sent Friday evening. The prompt, which I would have shared with the Secretary to the committee, is presented in a different format because the prompt covers the executive summary, the key findings only. The response provided by the clerk is more detailed and went through the full report. I have not had an opportunity to validate anything contained in this prompt that is in addition to the information that was already supplied. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, Madam Clerk, I'll invite you to provide your response to the findings.
Good morning again, everyone. Today I appear before the committee in my capacity as the accounting officer for the Houses of Parliament, and I wish to affirm my respect for the committee's oversight role and my commitment to accountability and the proper stewardship of public resources. The matters before the committee today arose from a special audit conducted by the Auditor General. My office has reviewed the findings, accepted those that are founded, and have implemented corrective measures where weaknesses were identified. I wish to state clearly at the outset that based on the findings, there was no actual financial loss to the government arising from the deficiencies identified, noting that certain matters remain under statutory review in accordance with the Financial Administration and Audit Act. The auditors did not find any private or personal use of the government-funded credit card, and all funds identified were fully accounted for. In relation to fleet vehicle management, I did not authorize any personal use of government vehicles, nor did I authorize or condone the falsification of entries into logbooks. Where control weaknesses came to light, those arrangements were stopped immediately and stronger oversight mechanisms were put in place. As part of strengthening governance and ensuring compliance with the FAA Act, the Houses of Parliament approached the Ministry of Finance and the Public Service and formally requested the implementation of an internal audit committee. This represents the first time such a committee was being established in the history of the Parliament and is a significant step in institutionalizing oversight and accountability. Several of the issues raised in the report reflected historical control gaps and periods of administrative transition. Once these matters were brought to my attention, directives were issued, control strengthened, and governance arrangements formalized to prevent recurrence. I'm here today to assist the committee fully to clarify the factual and governance context and to answer questions on the systems that are now in place to protect the public interest and the integrity of the Parliament.
The issue of the unauthorized use of the motor vehicle. On the third page, and I just bring your attention to a bullet point. HOP's response dated September 2025 cited August 15, 2025 memo claiming Clark's permission, even though no evidence not provided. I'm just seeking clarity on that.
So by way of background information, just to state that the officer in question was completing part-time studies at the University of the West Indies. And he, based on his time schedule at the time, he would often return to the Parliament to complete his duties and responsibilities. And this officer was also the victim of crime, having left work late one evening. He was deprived of his personal effects in the downtown area. And it was known to us that he would often stay here until late in the night, and therefore permission was granted to him that he could have access to the vehicle to ensure his safety in those extenuating circumstances. But certainly no permission was ever granted for there to be any unauthorized usage of the vehicle for personal purposes, nor for incorrect entries to be entered in the logbooks.
Okay, so you would have, my understanding is he was held up and robbed, and as a result, permission would have been granted for him to, is it to keep the vehicle overnight?
In cases where he was working beyond sociable hours. Sometimes we only have 2 drivers employed to the Parliament. Currently we have 1, so on occasions he would also assist us in carrying out their activities.
Madam Auditor General, just seeking your guidance here. In a scenario where there are extenuating circumstances and permission was granted by the clerk for overnight use of the vehicle, what would satisfy the Auditor General? Because it was raised as a key finding and a breach. Was it the absence of written instructions, or what would satisfy you that permission was granted in a scenario like this?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, as the clerk shared her position, I was actually consulting with the AP for that area because...
What does AP mean?
I'm sorry, the audit principal.
Okay.
With responsibility for the audit, because what she shared just now, that she granted permission for the vehicle to be used in some circumstances, that's actually new to me. So it is not something that I would have given contemplation to. My understanding up to this point is that there was no evidence that permission was granted for the use of the vehicle. I am now consulting with my AP on that. In any event, I believe the circular does say that permission has to be granted by the head of entity. This matter is here as an issue because there was no such evidence that any permission was granted, and my my understanding is that the clerk had also denied giving any such permission. I'm hearing something else now, Mr. Chairman, that I really do not want to provide any opinion on that until I have better particulars of really what existed.
The facilities and office manager would have made this disclosure to the auditors regarding the fact that he was held up and that permission was granted. And I also do believe that I would, in the exit interviews with the auditors, this would have been stated. What is clear is that there was no written permission, and what is also clear is that no permission was ever granted for there to be any breach of the FAA Act or for any incorrect entries to be made in the logbooks.
So just so I'm clear, so there would have been, after the incident, verbal permission would have been granted given the incident, but nothing was put in writing. So when the Auditor General would have done her audit, she would not have seen evidence of permission in writing.
There is no permission in writing, that is correct, but disclosures would have been made to the auditors by the facilities manager of what transpired.
Okay.
Was your approval abused, or was it generally in line with what you had approved?
From my own observations, I would state that it appeared that there was no abuse of the permission.
There was no abuse, you said?
Based on my observation at the time, because additional information came to light at a later time, and that is when I would have provided instructions to the legal department. This was in June of last year, for them to also do a review based on information that was coming to my office about the manner in which the vehicle was being used to determine if there was any abuse or non-compliance with the FAA Act. And upon receiving that legal opinion from our internal legal branch, the facilities and office manager was instructed that he should cease driving the motor vehicle, because in addition to instances where it was found that it was being used for personal reasons, it was also discovered that he was not ITA certified at the time. He did not have the proper certification that would have allowed him to be driving the government-owned vehicle.
The only reason this was flagged as an issue, at the time of the audit, the Auditor General didn't see written permission, which is why she raised this as an issue. The clerk has said that she provided it to the auditors in the interviews, but at the time she didn't see it. I'm going to move to the issue of the government-funded credit card. And the issue that was flagged here is that there was an error in terms of the transfer of funds, and it was undetected for 4 months. I've noted your response since, and the issue of a new principal financial officer. But prior to that, could you indicate how regularly were the accounts being reconciled, and whether the individual before was doing that on a consistent basis? It appears not, but I just wanted to find out from you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. Based on instructions received, it is our understanding that the reports were not being maintained in a consistent manner, and proper oversight perhaps was not adopted in the circumstances, which would have led to this processing error from the bank. I can tell you that prior to even my tenure here at the Houses of Parliament, we had an issue where a lot of staff were being either overpaid or underpaid. And since the new PFO has joined the institution, we have seen several changes, and certainly reporting mechanisms are strong. And we do not have any outstanding quarterly credit card reports at the moment, and this can be attributed to the oversight that is being provided by the PFO.
On this issue, I mean, $29 million is not a little bit. Is it that the Parliament is so flush with money that they don't catch a 29 million error in transferring? There must have been, was there not a shortage somewhere else that would have indicated that this substantial sum is missing from where it should have been? I mean, and then for it to go undetected for 4 months, I mean, to say indicates weak reconciliations, that must indicate no reconciliation was taking place. How would a $29 million transfer error to a card account not be detected in the normal, I would imagine, at least monthly bank reconciliations that should take place?
The erroneous transaction occurred on January 31, 2025, during the tenure of a former PFO. For the record, the credit card in question, it has a limit of $5,000 only. So the error would have occurred between the financial institution, because if we only have a limit of $5,000, on what basis would you seek to withdraw or to make a claim for $28.96 million?
But I'd go further. On what basis would any officer of the Parliament do that transfer?
It was not transferred. The transfer was done based on my understanding from the Accountant General's Department. So it's not like the PFO. It is not my understanding that.
Oh, so
the
it was
PFO
not initiated by someone at the Parliament?
That's not my. One second. I've just been properly advised by the PFO that we had submitted a letter to the bank for payment on the credit card, and then the bank actually made that processing error in withdrawing more than what was stated in the cover letter to them. And
So you sent to the bank the amount that you felt should have been withdrawn, and the bank withdrew significantly more?
That is correct.
This is the January 28, 2025 letter to the manager of Scotiabank?
Yes, that's correct.
So your instructions were for the Jamaican equivalent of 181,000 Jamaican dollars. So instead of 181,000 Jamaican, 28. Sorry, I'm just trying to understand. I'm a little confused here. Because you are saying 181,000 Jamaican, but what was done was 29 million?
They converted it to US dollars, it appears.
So they
Jamaican.
took the Jamaican equivalent, assumed it was US.
It appears to be, that is what transpired.
Hold on. Let me read this. The Houses of Parliament is hereby requesting that the recurrent expenditure account be debited with the Jamaican equivalent. All right, well, I see why they're confused. Because you said with the Jamaican equivalent, so they would assume the 181 is US. I think this should have been written with more clear, it should have been clearer. And okay, I understand why the error was made. But it still don't explain why it takes so long to pick up the error, because that's a lot of money that you would have missed, that would have been taken out of your account. And but you are saying the Accountant General did that transaction?
No, sorry.
Oh, okay, okay.
I
Yeah.
stand corrected.
First, credit where it's due. The Auditor General was very clear on one key point. There was no evidence that the government-issued credit card was used for personal purposes. That matters. Allegations alone are not facts, and that allegation was not established. But, and this is a big but, the audit didn't stop there. The report found breaches of rules, weak internal controls and poor oversight across procurement, fleet management and credit administration. So while there may not have been personal misuse, there was clearly administrative failure. Now let's talk about the vehicle issue, because this is where the story starts getting messy. The clerk says permission was verbally granted for an officer to use a government vehicle due to safety concerns after the officer was robbed and because he worked late hours. That explanation sounds human. It sounds reasonable. But here is the problem. No written permission. Auditor General says she was previously told no permission existed. Now, during the committee hearing, a new explanation emerges. That's not a small issue. In public administration, verbal permission does not project the institution. If it's not documented, it effectively doesn't exist when auditors show up. And it gets worse. Later, additional information came to light. The officer was allegedly using the vehicle for personal reasons. He was not properly certified to drive the government vehicle. Legal review had to be requested. Eventually, he was told to stop driving the vehicle altogether. So now we have a situation where permission is claimed, abuse is later suspected, documentation is missing, oversight only kicks in after issues surface. That is exactly how systems fail, even when there is no bad intent. Now let's talk about the $29 million error, because this cannot be brushed aside. We are told the credit card limit was $5,000. A letter was sent requesting 181,000 Jamaican dollars. The bank mistakenly treated it as US dollars. Result, $28.96 million withdrawn. Mistakes happen, fine. But here is the issue. It went undetected for 4 months. That tells us one thing loud and clear. Reconciliations were weak or not happening at all. You don't miss $29 million unless accounts aren't being reviewed, oversight is ineffective, or controls are completely broken. And while responsibility is partially shifted to the bank, internal controls exist to catch errors exactly like this. The most telling moment, when committee members themselves struggled to understand how this error could survive normal monthly checks. That confusion says everything. Yes, corrective steps have since been taken. A new principal financial officer, stronger reporting mechanisms, no outstanding credit card reports now, first ever internal audit committee established. Those are positive steps, but they also confirm that systems were previously not fit for purpose. This audit isn't about personal document. It's about governance, documentation, and accountability. And on that front, the system clearly failed before it was fixed. So let me ask you this. Is no financial loss enough when controls are weak? Is verbal permission acceptable in public office? And should a $29 million error ever go unnoticed for months? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Like the video, share it, and subscribe, because conversations like these matter.